At the library, the literary adventure begins. Finding the perfect book is not always easy, but the iRead4Skills sorter and app make the choice easier. iRead4Skills tells you which book to select to help you develop your reading skills in a fun and effective way. A book piques your curiosity, but you hesitate to buy it because you are afraid you won't be able to understand it. By identifying the iRead4Skills seal, you will know its level of complexity and be sure that you will understand it. Make more informed purchasing decisions. HR managers and training managers are looking for effective methods to ensure clear communication and ensure employee understanding. iRead4Skills offers an innovative solution, indicating which parts of texts are complex and how to simplify them in order to match the reading skills of your employees. With iRead4Skills, help your employees grow professionally by improving communication and access to information. Adult educators are looking for resources that not only motivate their students, but also help them to develop their reading skills. The iRead4Skills platform offers a comprehensive database of iRead4Skills certified books, specifically designed for adults. With iRead4Skills, teachers ensure that their students have access to relevant materials that contribute to the continuous development of their skills. iRead4Skills is a relevant tool for promoting a dynamic and effective learning environment. With iRead4Skills, the world of reading opens up. Discover books that suit your interests and learning goals. Make informed decisions and enjoy reading to the fullest. Identify materials that contribute to your personal and professional development and improve your reading comprehension skills in an easy way. iRead4Skills provides access to enriching and rewarding reading experiences. iRead4Skills, a new journey through knowledge.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the final conference of the iRead4Skills project, both here and online. Today, the iRead4Skills project reaches an important milestone, presenting to a broad audience our results, the path that brought us here, and, as importantly, the way we see the project results moving forward. Your presence, both here in the auditorium and online, is truly inspiring to us. Thank you for being part of this moment. We hope you enjoy the conference, and we are very much looking forward to hearing your questions and comments and to discuss with you the many dimensions of this project. Focusing on reading skills and building on our specific expertise, we have developed a solution able to contribute to improving people's lives, bringing them closer to knowledge, information, and culture, and thereby helping to build the conditions for the successful development skills matched to needs. Throughout this process, we have consistently thought to bring research and innovation closer to real life and people through a genuinely collaborative effort involving international partners and a wide range of national and international stakeholders. As depicted in the video, our vision is to reach out to the general public and a diverse audience of potential beneficiaries, from individuals eager and sometimes struggling to develop their reading skills and explore the vast world of written knowledge and arts, to dedicated teachers and trainers who seek to motivate and support their students, to committed professionals in libraries, publishing houses, associations who promote literacy and basic skills, to employers and content producers concerned with getting their message across. To achieve this, we must disseminate our results, present our prototypes, and raise awareness about the importance of literacy, reading skills, and innovation in today's world. And this is what we are here to do today. We begin with the valuable contributions of our honorable guests of this opening session, whom I invite in a minute to come to the stage. Professor Manuela Aparicio, Vice Rector for Pedagogical Innovation here at Nova University, Lisbon. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. I hope that you are all well, and welcome to Nova for those who are visiting us for the first time. So, good afternoon. I would like to greet Your Excellency Simone Rossini for the program coordinator of the Director General for Employment and Social Affairs and Inclusion in the European Union. I would like also to greet all the members of this consortium, and I would like to greet all the professors from our schools and dear students, dear colleagues. I would like to greet, and it's a great honor to be here to begin this session, and which is dedicated to a discussion of results of iRead4Skills project consortium. The initiative is really aligned with European priorities for skills development and strengthening in education and training policies through life. We are living through a very different period right now, socially speaking, economically, and technological, with the introduction of and the usage of a massive usage of generative AI in every part of people's lives. We are living decisive moments right now in this matter of skills. So more than fundamental, skills literacy is now more than ever a central element for the full citizenship, employability, innovation, and social cohesion. Since we need to talk the same language in order to be understandable, or we need to communicate, even if we are in different languages, we need to communicate on the same basis. The results of the program for the International Assessment for Adult Competencies Cycle 2, released in 2024, highlight the structural weaknesses in the skills profile for adult population in Portugal, and particularly in literacy, numeracy, and problem solving in technology-rich environments, placing the country below the OECD average, which it's sad. It is precisely within this context that iRead4Skills project is situated and led by the Schools of Social Sciences and Humanities of Nova University of Lisbon, through its Center of Linguistics, which has played a pioneer in driving the role of research on language, literacy, and learning. The project contributes to advanced scientific knowledge on literacy processes, and to innovation in educational practices, and to formulation of evidence-based responses, and promote skills development throughout citizens' life trajectories. The iRead4Skills project is also an example for the value of European collaboration and the structuring support provided by the Horizon Europe program, which makes it possible to connect scientific knowledge, public policy, and educational practice in responding to the complex and sharing challenges. And in this context, I believe it is why I was invited here for this part of the session, because it's a great pleasure as being dedicated 100% of my time for pedagogical innovation. It is very important, and now we are suddenly aware for the importance of this part, which is to embrace the challenges that we are living today. When we see, for example, students who really like or prefer to talk to a machine and make it orally instead of reading, forgetting that if we do not read, we are becoming constrained and less free in terms of language communication and exercise our democratic duties. Among the results already achieved, particularly highlights include the needs assessment work carried out with adults and trainers in several European countries, and the definition of levels of textual complexity, support content adaptation, and creation of multilingual linguistic resources, including a data set of corpora in Portuguese. I might make a parenthesis here. I'm coming from a data science school where we treat not just numbers or statistics, but we also treat natural language, spoken language. One of the findings of one of the studies is that when we want to treat Portuguese European language, not non-European language, we have better results if we translate these, and this might sound shocking for you. We have better results using machine learning model if we translate Portuguese into Polish and then Polish to English and back again, English to Polish, Polish to Portuguese. The results are better than to Portuguese European. And these are results found in natural language. Okay, so in this spirit of sharing results that we found among all the endeavors and all the research, excellent research, I believe so, and the facts and the evidences are in Nova portal research. I would like to thank you for this invitation. I will be gladly answering some questions afterwards. And thank you for committing to this cause and feel very welcome in Nova University. Thank you so much and have a successful afternoon. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. I invite now Simone Rossini from the European Commission to come. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. It's a pleasure to be here today. And for the PowerPoint, how does it work? I just click, okay. So. Yeah, okay. Okay, but first of all, really a pleasure to be here today. It's nice to come to this nice university. It's a pleasure to be here on the podium. And it's also nice to have people that I understand they tested, they developed, someone developed, and some other tested. So thanks to you all from my side. Indeed, I'm Simone Rossini. I work at the European Commission, the Director General for Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion. But the call for proposal from which this project originates was done together with other services, so the Director General for Education and Culture, obviously, and for Research and Innovation. So I had a presentation, maybe I will try to go rapidly through it so that we have time for a nice discussion there on these nice chairs and seeing you all. But I think it's important to put some policy context around this. And the first thing that I want to touch upon, and also the most important, is this worrying development of basic skills. These are like 15 years old, and you may see like there are six waves of results of people underachieving in these three categories: reading, mathematics, and science. And we had until 2012, let's say, an improving record. The share of people underachieving was decreasing in a good way, still away from this target that we have of 15% to reach in 2030. But then, from 2012 onwards, we see a worrying development, and now we are studying the 2025 results, and the situation this tendency seems to continue, which is extremely worrying. And so this project may help, and in general, I think, as the Vice Rector was saying, it's not about reading mathematics and science per se, but it's like these are the foundation of all society. It's the foundation of our social cohesion, it's the foundation of our democracy, and if we do not understand why this happens, and if we don't tackle it effectively, I think that it's another huge danger that can pose immense problems to our society. So there is also now an open call tackling exactly this thing. And in parallel, we also, the other big target that we have that I think it's relevant for iRead4Skills is at least 60% of adults age 25-64 should have participated in learning during the last 12 months by 2030. So here there are different surveys that you can use to see where we stand. And here we see that anyway we are still lagging quite behind, especially because the target 2025 we missed it, but then the 2030 is a very ambitious target, and we see that the average is quite below, and that while in 2025 some countries were managing to reach it, we have on the right side of the chart others that are particularly distant from it. And then, in terms of policies that we have in the European Commission, the main one under the president that we have is the Union of Skills. So in the second mandate of President von der Leyen, there were a number of initiatives, and the one covering our field today is called the Union of Skills, which is supposed to tackle a number of problems like skill shortages in Europe. So there are a number of sectors that have this difficulty to hire, and this is sometimes linked with job quality, but sometimes really to a lack of skills. There is a transformation speed gap, which was also hinted by the Vice Rector, and so we have these macro drivers of change, like the demographic change. The technological change is the biggest one lately. For some other things, also some climate component or the environmental component also play a role. And these are putting a strain on our education and training system, and so we need to try to tackle it, and try also to make the most out of the opportunities that are opened by the same changes sometimes. Like the technological change creates some problems sometimes, but it also allows us to use new tools that can effectively maybe solve the same issues that are created by it. And then a fragmented governance and skills intelligence. So we have a lot of data around, but there are different stakeholders, there are different owners, there are different people that are in charge at different levels, at European levels, at regional level, at national level, and so on. And so there is a bit of fragmentation that the Union of Skills aims to tackle. And so there are these 4 blocks that compose the Union of Skills. So building skills, and this is where iRead4Skills play a role, but also upskill and reskill with the aim of endowing people with the correct skill set to make the most of the digital and green transition. Circulate skills, people changing sector, people changing also country, and also attract, developing, and retain talent. This is also linked with, indeed, having people coming from other parts of the world to us and giving them the right skills. So there are a number of initiatives linked with this Union of Skills. There is this, we start from the second and then I will go back to the first. This European Skills Intelligent Observatory, this is a bit the solution that we have for the problem I was hinting at before. So a fragmented number, a lot of data in different places, not unified. And the idea of the Skills Intelligence Observatory is really to have a one-stop shop to have it all together without removing from the other part, but so the people that are interested can go there and have the full map or close to it. And then there will be, like, linked to this, a European skills high-level board that will be in constant touch with the Skills Intelligent Observatory, from which they can get the information and try together to solve the skills challenges. And then the first point was the European Semester and Human Capital Recommendation. And so the European Semester, I don't know if I'm talking too jargon right now, stop me, Raquel, if I'm talking language incomprehensible, but basically it's the coordination mechanism at EU level. Of course, being European semester is a bit of a misnomer because it lasts all year, but basically there is an analysis of the challenges of member states. This happens every year. And then there are country-specific recommendations, meaning country X, you have some weakness in these fields, please work on them. And there is a constant dialogue on how to do this. And this year, for this time, we have a human capital recommendation, which is horizontal and accompanies the European semester. And it's the first time we have a recommendation on human capital. And there are 6 key areas, which are the one listed here: addressing skill shortages in strategic sectors, strengthening basic skills to build solid foundations for higher competitiveness, strengthen vocational education and training for competitiveness, improve tertiary education outcomes in STEM, promote investment in education and skills, and make better use of skills intelligence. So then, I mean, maybe I will close it here so we have time for discussion. Anyway, I was talking a bit of VET and adult learning, but we can do it, maybe link it more close to the project itself. No, I'm fine. Let's chat. Ah, you don't have the mic. Ah, we don't have the mic. Okay, so I continue with the presentation until there are the microphones. Among the blocks that are touched by the Union of Skills, there is the vocational education and training. So you know, I mean, maybe the definition is this one, the European definition. The vocational education and training is learning which aims to acquire knowledge, know-how, information, values, skills, and competencies, either job-specific or transversal, requiring specific occupations or more broadly in the labor market. There are some challenges. Just attractiveness, I would say, is one of the main ones, because some people perceive like the normal higher education as more attractive and more remunerative, and they leave it aside. But we know that across sectors, especially in the industrial sectors, we have a lot of shortages for occupations, and really companies that struggle, and especially SMEs, they struggle to remain afloat because they don't have enough skilled people. And this is a problem for our economy and for our society. And because of this, there are a number of initiatives. So it's a bit across the board, touched by a number of blocks that we have at the European Union. So the political guidelines, which are these big directions that are given by the president at the beginning of her mandate. But also, here I just put the Draghi report, but also the Letta report, also the Nitro report, they all stress at different points there is a need for investment in skills and in VET in particular. And then the Union of Skills I was mentioning before. So we have in it a new European VET strategy, and there is the potential for having a VET diploma or label. I will just to mention, I cannot cover all of them because otherwise I eat all the conference and it would be a pity. But just to give you the ideas, and then you can find all the information online. Linked to this, there is a micro-credential. So there are these learning outcomes, and this is made in order to allow more transparency from the people that are getting training and the employers or potential employers. But so I think it was an idea really to be more flexible to all these different types of training possibilities and education possibilities there are. But it's a bit unregulated, and then of course there are a number of trainings. There is the formal training, non-formal training, informal training, and so it's a bit difficult to tackle, to have, and there is a problem of trust linked to this, so how can I know exactly the quality of this micro-credential? But we are trying also to improve in this regard. Then the adult learning, which is also super important for iRead4Skills, because also this was tackled by the same sources of before and also others, but I just picked the three most important. In particular, the political guidelines really at one point said we have to tackle the skills and labor gap. The Draghi report says the particular focus is needed on adult learning because, again, once you have some competencies, then you cannot leave them there. You have to keep training for all your life because otherwise you risk becoming redundant and end up outside the labor market, which has a lot of bad consequences. Also in terms of social cohesion, also in terms of health. And then the Union of Skill also has a block on these parts. the main challenges are the low participation rates. You remember the second slide that I put there on the right side of the graph. There were countries that were below 10%, basically, when we have a target of 60. And the policy responses that we have at EU level, it's like the individual learning accounts, the Pact for Skills, the upskilling pathways, and different skill strategies. And also here again, in the first block for the fragmentation, this observatory also plays a role. And here I'm really closing. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to this session presenting the iRead4Skills project. This session is structured around three main dimensions of the project, offering a comprehensive view of both its foundations and its real-world implications. First, we will explore the technical and scientific process. Second, we will examine the project's impact and outreach. And finally, we will turn to end-user perspectives, focusing on how the project connects with adult learning, vocational education, and training communities. With this roadmap in mind, let's begin with the first section about technical and scientific process. In this section, I want to invite three distinguished researchers and experts that will guide us through the technical and scientific dimensions of the project. So please come in Jorge Batista, Thomas Francois, and Marcos Garcia. First of all, it's a pleasure to introduce them. So from my left to my right, Marcos Garcia. He's a researcher at CITIUS, the Research Center of Intelligent Technologies of the University of Santiago de Compostela, and a professor of computational linguistics at the same institution. Then we have Jorge Batista, a researcher at INESC-ID, a research institute in computer science and electrical and computer engineering, and associate professor at the University of Algarve. He's an expert in computational and theoretical linguistics. And finally, Thomas Francois, associate professor at the Catholic University of Louvain. He's an expert researcher in the fields of readability and text simplification. So it's a real pleasure to welcome you all, and the floor is yours.
So, hello everybody. Thank you for coming so numerous. I will try to check if the system is working well. Okay, no. Is it something that I should do? They are preparing the slides. Okay, perfect. Okay. I already moved to. Okay, perfect. So, good afternoon, everybody. I'm pleased to present to you the scientific and technological development that were done in this iRead4Skills in behalf of my team, but also the team of my colleague. And of course, I was in charge of the French development. So if you have any specific question for Portuguese or Spanish, feel free to ask to my colleague. So in this, I hope, quick presentation, I will present you what we call the ICA API. So it is the system which is behind the interface that will be presented to you later. And you will see it includes two main components, a text classifier, which is the readability system I will develop after, and the the writing assistant. Here are the beautiful team with whom we had the pleasure to work, and I think it was already everywhere on all the screens, so you probably know it, but I would like to thank again all my colleagues for that great project. So now the API. As you can see on the figure, the idea is that you have a user, be it a teacher or a student, that wants to assess the difficulty of a text. Okay? He will go to iRead4Skills interface and ask for assessment of an evaluation of the difficulty of the text, and the API will connect to, the interface will connect to the API and mostly do three things. Okay? The first one is how should we represent the text, which is a sequence of words, of characters, into a numeric representation that can be used to apply AI algorithms. Okay? So that's the vectorization steps. Second step is to assess, to classify the text according to our 4-point difficulty scale that was also designed in the project. And the last functionality of the API is to be able to annotate in a fine-grained approach the elements in a text that are difficult for low literate adults when they read the text. So the first step, as I said, is vectorizing. Okay? How can you transform the text into a vector, a numeric vector? For this, of course, we need to extract linguistic information from the text that are relevant for reading difficulty. Okay? And of course, there is a large literature within the field of readability that we investigated, and we were able to specify a large set of linguistic properties that are indeed related to text difficulty. And you can have a quick look at them on the figure, on the table right there. So there are information about the length of word, sentence, information about the lexicon, frequency, diversity, age of acquisition of word, concreteness of word, and so on. Information also about the syntax, the morphology of the text, about discourse, content, etc. So at the end, we ended up with a rich representation of text with more than about 5,000 of numerical value that were extracting the difficulty of text. So that's the vectorization. Based on that, we could move to the text classification. So the idea here is to develop an AI system that is able to take into, you see that you have an input here of a text. We want to automatically analyze and say, okay, this is the difficulty. I have no pointer, but you can see here in orange, okay, the level of difficulty. Here it's the third, so it corresponds to accessible. Okay, so we want for any text to be able to predict its reading difficulty level on this 4-scale, 4-point scale that we developed. And you can see that there are also, just below the global assessment of the text, 4 yardsticks that will bit more, in a more detailed way, specify the difficulty of the text. So we have information about the general descriptive information, so it's length of word and sentence mostly, about the difficulty of lexicon, syntactic, and semantic. So they are roughly the main linguistic level of a text. So to get there, the first element, very important, is we needed some data connected to our target population. So we asked trainers that were used to work with low literate adults to read text and estimate their reading difficulty for that specific population. Okay, Based on that, we were able to train AI algorithm, and we compare 4 different approaches. So the classic machine learning approach, where you have the text representation, not working, the text representation here, so the feature, okay, linguistic feature, we use that, and we use also statistical model to predict automatically, sorry, I was too far away, yeah. To predict automatically the reading difficulty level of the text. The second approach was fine-tuning, so it's based on the first generation of language model, and you can fine-tune this model on your training data, okay? And we also try to combine both type of information, so the linguistic information we extracted from the text and this embedding representation of the first generation of language model that's called hybrid model. And of course, we also experimented with the latest generative AI system, but guess what? They are less efficient than the previous generation because actually they are trained to generate text and not to classify. So you can see here the result for the different team, and you can see that the system, the approach that worked best was the hybrid. So it means that when you have the embedding, that maybe you heard about it, that are used in those LLM model, they can be still improved if you use some explicit linguistic information, as we did in the project. Second element was how to get the yardstick estimation. Okay, so here what we want is for each yardstick, we also want to assign one of the 4 levels to each yardstick. Okay, so being able to say, okay, the lexicon difficulty of this text is accessible or is very easy, etc. Okay, for this we needed to develop threshold, and we developed threshold also on the annotated data using different approach, either like direct threshold or Gaussian mixture model. You can see that in those yardsticks, they are connected to a limited amount of variable. For instance, for the lexicon, we are capturing, the lexicon yardstick is based on lexical complexity of the text, lexical frequency, age of acquisition, and lexical diversity. Okay, so we had to select a limited amount of feature, the most relevant one, and integrate them into the yardstick. We wanted also to evaluate the efficiency of those yardsticks, so we asked experts to annotate 60 documents per languages and to assign the gold standard, the true value of the yardstick based on their subjective expertise and opinion, of course, and that enable us to evaluate the yardstick, and you can see that the best one are the structure for all 3 languages, and then lexical for Portuguese and Spanish, and syntax for French. Doing all these, we obviously encounter some scientific challenges, and it was the opportunity to publish about the way we were able to solve these challenges, and you can see here that we had several publications in a major venue of natural language processing. Okay, so that was for the text classifier. It's very important to get this global assessment, for instance, for the library use case that you saw on the video. But if you think about the teacher that has to use a text within the classroom, generally what you're interested in is to adapt the text. Okay, you take a text on the web, for instance, and you want to simplify or see what's difficult so you can prepare an explanation. So for this, we need a more fine-grained analysis of text difficulty, and that's the goal of the writing assistant. So it helps you to write simpler text if needed. So here you have an example again of the interface, and you see that you have your text and some elements that are highlighted as being difficult for a given level. This writing assistant is obviously not the first one there, okay? And you can see a list of other ones. for instance, clavis for Portuguese or A major for French. But as you can notice, the iRead4Skills is the most complete one because it's available for the 3 languages. There is also an interface, GUI, and we also analyze the 3 levels: document level, segment, so sentence level, and word level. Okay. So to build this writing assistant, we could obviously rely on the linguistic properties that we already capture when we vectorize the text. Okay? But it was not enough, because there are other phenomena that need to be detected, such as subordination, coordination, passive construction, named entities, and so on. So you can see here that we added 40 new types of difficult phenomena, and of course we had to implement code in Python to automatically detect them and test everything. So here we have an example of what you can get on the interface for coordination. So you see that we can nicely detect the coordinated element and the coordinators. But the most difficult element is to, first, one challenge is to detect correctly the phenomena, but the second one is to decide which one are difficult for a given target. Okay? And for this, again, we relied on the annotated data collected in Word Package 3, so based on the judgment of the trainers, and we defined empirical threshold through different strategy. There is also a nice publication that explains everything that in more detail than what I say, if you're interested. It was published in one of the main venues of NLPs, so EMNLP, last year. So to conclude, I hope that you find this tool inspiring and useful for your classroom, but of course there are a lot of room for improvement and some perspective to go further. Okay? So one thing is obviously to get tools that are even more reliable than what we have now. And for this we would need more data, more data from real low literate adults. And so that's clearly one of the perspectives. We could also use user feedback when they are using the interface, collect the feedback and see how we can adapt or add some element to get also more feedback. And the last thing is that currently we offer some simplification advice when there is some difficulties, okay? But they are generic. So it's a bit like the same as you can find in the simple writing guide edited by the EU Commission or the national level also. But what would be nice is to have a real simplification using the LLM, which is feasible in theory. So thank you very much for your attention, and feel free to ask a question to the team.
We are now going to move from research and development to the broader impact of the project in section 2 about impact and outreach. And in this section, we will reflect on how iRead4Skills contributes to the wider ecosystem of basic skills and educational policy. To discuss this dimension, I want to welcome Zoltán Barkóny from the European Basic Skills Network and Regina Duarte from the Ministry of Education, Science and Innovation of Portugal.
Good afternoon. My name is Zoltán Barkóny, and I had the privilege to be part of the advisory board of the project. and I'm also representing the European Basic Skills Network, which is a network of policymakers and policy providers, research institutes, ministries, universities, and national network of education providers in the field of basic skills, adult basic skills. And we come together every year to discuss how basic skills policies can be improved in the national context and in Europe. Thank you. About the challenge, we just analyze and discuss the latest PIAC results, the Program for Assessment of Adult Skills, which measures literacy, numeracy, and digital problem-solving skills. And the results are quite depressing. There is one adult in every 4 who performs under level 1, which means that they basically can read very simple sentences at the primary school 4th grade level. And this population in Europe, in the EU countries, constitutes 54 million people. And the literacy level Europe-wide is declining. In the last 10 years, it had a tendency of declining. And at the same time, the participation in adult education is in some countries stagnating, but in other countries also declining, especially those who has low level of basic skills or basic skills needs. At the same time, the digital transformation accelerating, which means that the society demands more complex skills to function in. The labor market demands more digitally embedded basic skills, and it increases the challenge. So it means that the basic skills challenge is not something we have overcome after introducing the education, the compulsory education, but it maintains in the modern society. And the basic skills are evolving, so there is always a growing demand, and there are always people who has difficulties in keeping up. So this is the context where the iRead4Skills project proves to be very relevant, and I see there are 3 dynamics in which the project is really embedded. There is this persistent need for basic skills, or persistent basic skills gap. It's different in the European countries, but the tendency is there is a widening skills gap, which means there is a widening gap in between the highly educated and the low educated people. And we also talk about the low skills trap, which means that people who has low level of basic skills tend to apply to jobs which demands low level of basic skills. And then there is very little incentives and motivation to develop the skills, and especially in some countries, the whole labor market is somehow trapped in that situation. So the skills level of the workforce is not really developing. So this demands something more structural intervention and scalable solutions. And this is where iRead4Skills came with an important proposition. There is another dynamic, the digitalization of learning, the adult learning system. And in this respect, it is important to have reliable solutions which are responsible, ethical, and anchored into the education system, transparent. And I think iRead4Skills delivered an important solution which complies with this criteria. And the third dynamic is the shift from the deficit model in adult education to the empowerment model. A few years ago, the discourse in adult education policy was basically around what skills adults lack. But it turned to be a wrong approach because we don't know what really they lack. It depends on their priorities, it depends on their life pathway, it depends on their interest. So there is a new approach in this that we need to support or need to develop support systems which helps them to build on their strengths, to realize their ambitions, to learn what they need, to learn something which they can solve their everyday problems. iRead4Skills, with its approach, with its solutions, the tool which was presented, helps a lot to support adults and to address their genuine curiosity, their interest, to learn and read what they really want and they really need from literature, from art to basically basic work instructions. It's a lucky moment because basic skills are in the center of the European policies, as we heard in the previous presentation. And it means that it recognized that basic skills are an enabling factor not only of social inclusion, but also the competitiveness of Europe, the resilience of the economy, the resilience of the society. So we need to address basic skills in all European countries. And the recent policy documents, which were already introduced, focus on this and put high emphasis on basic skills, which is a very good development. And one of the joint principles of all the documents is to improve access, to increase the quality of learning opportunities, the relevance of the learning opportunities, and the adaptability into different contexts, to different vulnerable groups, to different countries. So iRead4Skills meets all these criteria. And what is important in our network when we see the different innovation initiatives, that innovation is successful when it bridges the policy ambitions, the teachers or the practitioners' everyday practice, and the learners' experiments. And I think iRead4Skills managed to achieve this with these solutions. So it fits to it translates the European policy principles into practice and provide a very useful and valuable support for teachers and learners. Beyond the project, policymakers always ask what remains after the project. Can it be transferred into different contexts, into different countries? Does it influence policy? And what are the conditions that it continues? It's not only funding, it's somehow has to be integrated into the strategies of institutions, into the offers of providers, into the practice of teachers, and that requires lots of further work, engagement with policymakers, practitioners, providers. It is very sad when we see very good developments which potentially could have a very high impact, but because of the lack of efforts to get it through into the institution, to get it institutionalized, it somehow lost for the society, for the benefit of the society. And we, EBSN, we try to work further with the project to manage this objective. And also, iRead4Skills shows this capability of being adaptable and being scalable, and we can also work as a network on how other countries, other languages can adapt iRead4Skills, because it has a value of thinking of further mainstreaming. We will have a conference here in June where we invite different European countries, practitioners, researchers, policymakers, and discuss, among others, the project potential future applicability in other contexts. It is also important to highlight that the project is a reference model in our field, in the basic skills ecosystem. It's proof that technological development can provide a very useful contributions, even in literacy, which we think that teaching literacy, teaching reading and writing is already something we all know how to do this, but we see that there is lot to do to develop and to innovate in this, and iRead4Skills is a very good example that it can provide technology can provide a very useful contribution to this. And we hope very much that an innovation like the iRead4Skills will be a systematic and not only just a unique example. Thank you very much.
Boa tarde a todos, obrigada por terem vindo. Eu vou fazer a minha apresentação em inglês para benefício dos nossos convidados. Good afternoon, thank you for attending. I'll be speaking about possible impacts of this project, the outreach that we've been doing, and the dissemination of the project. The previous speakers have talked about the importance of adult literacy, so I don't need to stress that, but there's something that I would like to highlight to start with. If you speak to someone outside your professional area and ask them, do you think literacy is still a problem in our country? Or do you think literacy is still a problem in Europe? People will look at you in a funny way, you know, what's the problem there? You know, people are alphabetized, so we usually think that literacy is a problem of undeveloped countries. And we tend to forget that there's a high cost in the also called developed countries for illiteracy. So when I'm talking to stakeholders and trying to convince them that it's important to invest in literacy programs, I always show them the cost. You know, money tends to attract people to take action. And this is the report from the World Literacy Foundation from 2023. You can look at it, it's available online, and it has the cost of illiteracy for all the countries, so you can check your country. I only copied there for Portugal. So it costs us nearly $5 billion a year to have low literacy levels. So I think that's a good motivation for stakeholders to invest more in literacy, and I encourage you to use that table as well if you need to convince people that this is important. Talking about dissemination, so we had this initial challenge. We know that adult literacy innovation fails when tools remain too academic. That has been mentioned already here. When trainers are not involved early, and when adoption comes too late. So the resource becomes a strange object to the users. So our priority was to outreach through participation from the beginning of the project. And we started building our user community. You have some numbers there, so we had more than 400 educators trained. There was the participation of several Portuguese-speaking countries from across 4 continents. That's easy for us to do. We also had testing at a European-wide level in Belgium, Portugal, and Spain, which engaged 423 participants. We had training programs, and we worked with adult education networks. So in total, user engagement reached more than 809 participants. I think that's working at scale as it should be for these projects. Still building our user community, so there were co-creation sessions with teachers and AI developers. You met some of them here today. We had iterative testing cycles to improve along the way, to improve immediately the system, and we had classroom-based validation. That means the adoption from the users started before the technology was finished, and I think that's an important aspect of this project. As regards to research and public output, some were already mentioned here as well. So we had over 20 peer-reviewed research and media publications. We organized the journal special issue as well as scientific workshop. And you have now several resources that are available, open resources, 9 linguistic resources and technical reports that are useful for research or for public consultation. We also worked with several international networks. EPAL, we had several features and training posts. With the EBSN, we collaborated in previous conferences, and as Zoltan said, we'll be hosting the 2026 edition here in Lisbon. We presented at the World Literacy Summit, and we had several meetings with stakeholders such as publishers and other institutions, for instance, the Federation of European Publishers, the Portuguese National Publishers Association, and the General Directorate of Books, Archives and Libraries. We have now evidence of real use, more than 155 active users, more than 1,800 textual analysis. We have multilingual usage and sustained engagement. That means that the transition from the pilot phase to voluntary use is being done, is happening, and that's where the impact becomes visible, because people are already used to the system and they'll keep on using it. So briefly, what we foresee to be the impact for users. For practitioners, such as teachers, trainers, librarians, we are offering tools that reduce uncertainty in text selection and recommendation, that offer a clearer understanding of complexity levels, that present more effective differentiation in teaching materials, and that increase learner confidence and motivation. For publishers and content developers, they'll have better graded content and transparent leveling systems, and they'll have accessible materials for diverse adult audiences. For researchers, there's a validated corpora and refined readability indicators, cross-linguistic possibilities, and integration with AI-driven learning environments, as my colleagues already presented. Zoltán mentioned the impact or the possible uses for institutional and European networks, so I won't go through that, and I'll finish by saying that we worked doing a progression from, going from innovation to engagement to adoption of the tools to building a community of users, and I think that was a good way to do it. Thank you.
Now we're going to start with the next section about the user's perspective. Before starting with the roundtable, we are going to watch a video in which students explain the needs of adults with low literacy and share their experiences of using the app.
Sou Rui Costa e sou coordenador do Centro Codifica do Movimento de Escolas de Alvalade. Também tenho no cargo a coordenação do ensino noturno, nomeadamente nos cursos de educação e formação de adultos. Cumpro ainda, como um dos meus papéis, a função de pivô iRead4Skills. E esta função foi muito importante porque me permitiu ter contacto com este aplicativo e, com ele, ou através dele, poder dar resposta, ou ver nele um grande potencial de poder dar resposta a um dos grandes problemas que víamos nos nossos alunos adultos. A dificuldade que eles tinham em compreender textos, por vezes textos que nós achávamos que eram demasiado simples. No entanto, para eles, o vocabulário utilizado era complexo e foi aí que este programa nos mostrou o seu grande potencial para podermos perceber, na ótica dos próprios alunos, as dificuldades que eles sentiam na sua leitura. Assim sendo, isto é um programa que veio de facto permitir que os alunos pudessem analisar um texto e poder marcar nesse texto o que é que eram palavras para eles complexas e como tal permitiu-nos afinar e cria aqui um potencial enorme para podermos trabalhar os textos, simplificá-los, ou seja, ir de encontro a textos que sejam mais facilitadores da sua compreensão e apropriação por parte dos nossos alunos. Como referi inicialmente, têm de facto baixas competências ao nível da literacia. Assim sendo, o iRead4Skills foi uma boa oportunidade, é uma ferramenta com muito potencial no apoio a estes alunos.
Sim, eu gosto de ler. Normalmente estou a usar mais livros de crianças, que é mais fácil.
Eu posso dizer que sou um bocadinho preguiçosa a ler. Já li muito quando era mais nova, mas agora também por causa da correria do dia a dia não tenho tido muito tempo para ler.
Gosto de ler muito.
Penso que sim. Acho que se tivesse livros mais acessíveis, eu talvez despertasse mais interesse.
Algum. E por vezes bastante até. Não digo que são complicados ou difíceis, mas simplesmente andei na escola há 40 e tal anos atrás, né? E agora voltei à escola. Agora tenho 59. Voltei à escola agora.
Nem todos os livros são fáceis de se ler assim. Algumas são um pouco técnicas e outras não. Na minha opinião, cada um deveria ler o livro que eu pudesse perceber de maneira mais fácil.
Não consigo, as fichas da escola que eu não consigo ler ou não saber traduzidos. Já pedi ajuda ao professor para arranjar outros livros para ler antes.
Tenho sim, senhora. Tenho muita dificuldade. Principalmente aqueles textos do português de antigamente. Eu gosto muito de buscar este tipo de livros. E depois aí vejo mesmo muita dificuldade para ler. Por exemplo, quando fui trabalhar, o primeiro contrato eu não percebia, né? Mas agora também, com o passar do tempo, a pessoa vai ganhando uma experiência de vida.
Até agora tenho tido confiança, mas geralmente quando nos dão certos documentos, dizem-nos sempre, isso é só assinado, não é isto assim, é só assinado. E muitas vezes nós estamos sequer a ler nem 2 ou 3 frases. Porque acho que confiamos, né, nas pessoas que nos dão os documentos para a gente assinar.
Acho que a aplicação tem sido uma mais-valia para todos nós, principalmente para aquelas pessoas, assim como eu, que tinha dificuldades em perceber os textos, tem-me ajudado imenso.
Já a aplicação é muito fácil também de ser usada, é muito fácil.
Sim, acho que a aplicação poderia ajudar a facilitar mais a leitura dos textos.
E aconselho a muitos a usarem a aplicação.
O aplicativo sabia como identificar esse texto.
E para os textos dos nossos professores que não conseguem entender, que tinham palavras mais complexas.
Que com o aplicativo é rápido, a pessoa percebe melhor.
Penso que sim, penso que com essa aplicação tem sido tudo mais fácil.
Eu digo que todos deveriam utilizar o aplicativo para poderem aprender melhor sobre os textos.
Não tenho um computador, por isso uso o aplicativo do telemóvel para escolher o texto mais fácil e o texto mais difícil.
A palavra seria fácil, mais nada.
Se eu tivesse escolhido uma palavra, seria tornar os textos mais fáceis, menos complexos, facilitando.
Que é para o simples cidadão perceber melhor.
Usava a palavra amiga dos estudantes.
iRead4Skills.
We are now going to start with the roundtable. For this session, I would like to invite Elvis Duarte de Freitas, the Qualifica Center Coordinator and Adult Trainer here in Portugal, Isabel Dochot, Adult Trainer in Janvier Development in Belgium, Javier Alcázar, Editor of Lecturia, a Spanish publishing house specialized in offering easy-to-read books, and finally, Elizabeth Serra, co-director of the Spanish Easy Reading Association. Thank you for joining us today. We are delighted to have such a distinguished panel with us. And now I will ask to each participant, I'll ask a question in their language, and then I will repeat it in English. So you can respond in the language you feel most comfortable using. So for the first round, I'm going to start by Elvish. Tendo em conta os testemunhos apresentados no vídeo, como a escola ou o centro qualifica, pode usar o aplicativo em novas, diferentes e mais apelativas condições de aprendizagem ao longo da vida, como, por exemplo, na sala de aula ou na biblioteca? Taking into account the testimonials presented in the video, such as those from the school and the Qualifica Center, can you use the application in new, different, and more appealing lifelong learning conditions, such as in classroom or library?
Good afternoon. Well, it was a long question. Let's see if I can complete all the issues that you sent. I will speak in English because it's easier for everybody. Well, as an adult trainer, on a daily basis, we meet people with various degrees of difficulties. And the main difficulties are mostly the interpretation, text interpretation. A few moments ago, on the side conversation with our colleagues, we were talking about this, the books that they have to show us in Spanish for easy reading. We don't have such literature in Portugal. That's a big problem we have. Because as we heard in the testimonies, people were using child literature, infant literature. That is no way to address knowledge to adults. We need adapted materials. So iRead4Skills will certainly help us to go forward, because we can use this tool to reach the people. I mean, we have some Portuguese native speakers that have major difficulties in Portuguese reading. Not only the foreigners, but native Portuguese speakers. That is something that impacts all the life of the person as a citizen, as a worker. It has a high impact on his capacities of being a real citizen. His citizenship is, in all meanings, constrained by his difficulties. So iRead4Skills is, as I used to think, it is the most exciting application of this decade, because everybody is very anxious and excited with the LLM generative. But as a teacher, iRead4Skills gives me the capacity of building with it a pedagogic and didactic materials, not as the LLM generative do, because they just serve you the whole plate ready-made, but it doesn't tell you how to cook it. iRead4Skills gives you that extra layer of knowledge. So it's something that I'm looking very much forward to see available as a tool, a free tool for everybody, because it may really impact our capacity of creating knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer. Now is the turn for Isabelle. Comment les apprenants adultes en Belgique ont-ils réagi à l'utilisation de l'application? Sont-ils aussi enthousiastes concernant son potentiel que les apprenants porteraient dans la vidéo? I'm going to say it in English now. Okay. How have adult learners in Belgium reacted to the use of the app? Are they as enthusiastic about its potential as the Portuguese learners in the video? You can answer.
First of all, let me introduce myself briefly. So my name is Isabelle Douchot. I'm Belgian. I'm French speaking, and I've been working as an adult literacy instructor for almost 30 years. And about your question, well, they reacted very positively because they were given very clear instruction on how to use it, and they realized that they could use it very simply by taking a photo of their text and being able to identify the level of complexity thanks to the scale provided by the tool. And they appreciated the fact that it was practical and intuitive. And they said that they could use it at home to work autonomously, which is very interesting. And maybe even being able to monitor their reading progress. So they were very enthusiastic, yes.
Thank you. Now is the turn to Javier. En el vídeo, los adultos se quejan de que quieren leer, pero no encuentran libros para ellos. ¿Cómo puede contribuir el editor a diversificar la oferta editorial de acuerdo con estas necesidades de adultos con bajo nivel de alfabetización, movilizando escritores, ilustradores y librerías de forma sostenible? In the video, adults complain about wanting to read but not being able to find books for themselves. How can publishers work with writers, illustrators, and bookshops to create a diversity of offerings that meet the needs of adults with low literacy levels in a sustainable way?
Thank you for your question. With your permission, I'm going to answer in Spanish, okay? I'll try to speak slow for an easier comprehension. Creo que es importante pensar en un concepto que no hemos hablado todavía. Estamos hablando mucho de las reading skills, ¿no? De las habilidades lectoras, pero creo que es importante, para saber cómo puede contribuir un editor a todo esto, hablar del placer lector, ¿no? Del reading pleasure. Porque hay que ser un poco más ambicioso, yo creo, si realmente queremos crear nuevos lectores. No se trata solo de mejorar las competencias de lectura, sino también de convertir la lectura en un hábito que todo el mundo pueda disfrutar e incorporar a su ocio y a su forma de divertirse, a su forma de vida al final. Entonces, ¿qué podemos hacer desde el mundo editorial para diversificar esta oferta y acercar la literatura a las personas con dificultades lectoras? Bueno, pues la editorial que yo fundé, que se llama Lecturia, justo nació con esta idea, ¿no? Acercar el amor y la pasión por la literatura a todas las personas que tienen dificultades para comprenderla y, por tanto, para disfrutarla, ¿vale? ¿Qué podemos hacer? Creo que lo más importante es escuchar a los lectores, escuchar a las personas que tienen dificultades de comprensión y saber qué quieren leer para poder ofrecérselo y así que la lectura pase a formar parte de su vida. Nosotros empezamos publicando clásicos, es lo más fácil de publicar, están en dominio público, ¿no? No hay problemas de propiedad intelectual, pero quizá no siempre nos apetece leer clásicos, a lo mejor cuando vamos a dormir no queremos leer Hamlet o, no sé, Crimen y Castigo. Y una de las demandas que vimos en nuestros lectores es que quieren leer autores contemporáneos, novela histórica, novela negra, thriller. Entonces, bueno, eso es un proceso complicado por temas de propiedad intelectual, hay que negociar los derechos, hay que explicar a muchos autores, a muchos agentes literarios que hay personas que no pueden disfrutar de los libros y que tenemos que ofrecérselos en otro formato. Todos nuestros libros están adaptados con la metodología lectura fácil o easy to read, de la que Elizabeth es representante de la asociación en España, y todos nuestros libros llevan el sello que la asociación otorga y que bueno, demuestra, digamos, que cumplen todas las pautas de lectura fácil. Otra cosa que podemos hacer para contribuir en diversificar esta oferta es escuchar también el conocimiento profesional, ¿no?, de los lingüistas que detectáis, los investigadores, las necesidades de comprensión que tienen las personas con dificultades lectoras, o de los profesionales especializados en la lectura fácil. Y desde ahí, bueno, pues ofrecer un poco las soluciones y incorporarlas a los libros que publicamos. Y luego creo que lo último que podemos hacer para mejorar esta oferta es ser una parte activa del ecosistema del libro. Es decir, que los autores sepan que hay muchas personas que no pueden disfrutar de sus historias y que hay editores que queremos ofrecerles y acercarles esas historias. También todas las personas que participan en un libro, ilustradores, correctores, etcétera. Y luego los lugares donde viven los libros. Las librerías y las bibliotecas tienen que saber que existen materiales adaptados y que deben conocerlos para poder prescribir y recomendar a todas las personas que tienen alguna dificultad lectora un libro que se ajuste a sus necesidades y que le pueda hacer disfrutar de la lectura. Muchas gracias.
Now is the turn for Elizabeth. ¿De qué manera ha contribuido la Asociación de Lectura Fácil a diversificar la oferta y fomentar la demanda de acuerdo con las necesidades de estos adultos, movilizando a escritores, ilustradores, clubs de lectura, bibliotecas y librerías de forma sostenible? In what ways has the Easy Reading Association contributed to the diversification of offerings and the promotion of demand in line with the needs of these adults by mobilizing writers, illustrators, reading clubs, libraries and bookshops in a sustainable manner?
Muchas gracias. También responderé en español, despacio. Nuestra entidad lleva 23 años trabajando como asociación Lectura Fácil y tuvimos muy claro desde un principio que nuestro objetivo, que era acercar la lectura, la cultura, la información a todas las personas, en especial personas con dificultades lectoras, solo podríamos conseguirlo si construíamos una red de alianzas y complicidades con todos los distintos agentes que participan en el sector del libro, de la cultura, de la edición, de la educación, bibliotecas, librerías, centros escolares, centros de formación de adultos. Con lo cual, con esta misión detectamos que había unas dificultades lectoras. En España estamos hablando de alrededor de un 30% de la población tiene dificultades lectoras, pueden ser permanentes o transitorias, personas recién llegadas que aprenden el idioma del país de acogida, y estas dificultades pasarán por un periodo en el que necesitarán lecturas adaptadas, lecturas de lectura fácil. Claro, teníamos que conseguir crear libros de lectura fácil y ir a visitar las editoriales, explicarles que queríamos hacer libros para personas que tenían dificultades lectoras. Esto era un gran reto, que editoriales publicaran libros para personas que a priori tenían estas dificultades lectoras. Por tanto, editoriales como Lecturia de Javier, y ya tenemos casi unas 20 editoriales en España, la mayoría son pequeñas, pero también hay algún grupo editorial grande, publican libros de lectura fácil siguiendo la metodología de Inclusion Europe y también la IFLA, la Federación Internacional de Asociaciones e Instituciones Bibliotecarias. Teníamos los libros, estos libros los adaptan profesionales de la filología, de traducción, personas que trabajan con adultos y también en centros educativos. Teníamos los libros validados por nuestra asociación, pero tenían que llegar a los usuarios. ¿Cómo llegan a los usuarios? Pues construyendo esta red, firmando convenios con bibliotecas. Tenemos toda la red de bibliotecas públicas del país que tienen ejemplares múltiples de los libros de lectura fácil para poder organizar clubes de lectura fácil. Tenemos librerías, hemos construido una red de librerías amigas para que estos libros de lectura fácil también estén en los estantes. Normalmente no son libros que son bestsellers, pero son libros de largo recorrido que nunca se descatalogan. El primer libro de lectura fácil es de 2003 y aún se está vendiendo. Centros educativos, hacer toda esta red a través de charlas, de formaciones, para que los profesores conozcan los materiales de lectura fácil. Y como comentaba también los clubs de lectura. Los clubs de lectura en España tenemos 500 clubs de lectura que están utilizando los libros de lectura fácil. Por tanto, son personas con dificultades lectoras que están leyendo cada semana libros de lectura fácil de forma colectiva, de forma guiada, dinamizada por profesionales. Y creemos que nuestra asociación está trabajando en un plan de fomento lector, es un plan para que la lectura esté, pues, como comentábamos, al alcance de todas las personas. Y es siempre pensando en este trabajo colaborativo, en este trabajo de compartir conocimientos y de crear alianzas y complicidades. No podemos trabajar solos en este ámbito.
Thank you all for your valuable contributions. I really appreciate the depth and clarity of your answers. This brings us to the next set of questions in which we will further explore the usefulness of the iRead4Skills tool. Now we are going to start with Isabel. So I'm going to read only in English as you are answering in English, okay? So how can the app transform the work of adult educators, taking into account the profile and needs of adult learners?
Okay. Sorry in advance if I take a look at my notes from time to time, because I'm not used to speaking in English. I use French generally. So, well, one of our greatest challenges as instructors, as my colleague said, is sourcing reading materials adapted for low literacy adults. Well, we have adult learners, and generally text, well, in French it's the case, texts, articles, literature for adults are generally far too complex. And on the other side, simple texts are designed for children, but we have adult learners and we have to respect them as adult learners. It's really important for us. And so, therefore, we have to find texts that are simple enough to understand, but still appropriate for adults. So I think that this iRead4Skills application can be very interesting because, well, for its ability to highlight complexity, sentence complexity, grammatical complexity, for example, also to assess lexical complexity. And an important point for me is the ability to gauge the semantic complexity of a text, because abstract nouns and abstract concepts are, abstract words and concepts can be harder to understand in a text, or can make a text more difficult to interpret. So, because the use of figurative meanings is generally required through formal schooling. So, I think that this point is very interesting. And also, what may be obvious to us skilled readers is not necessarily obvious for adult learners with low literacy skills. So I think that this application will help us to adapt our texts, also to help us clarifying concepts or words in advance, and therefore anticipate comprehension issues. And also at my organization, we plan to develop a dedicated library for our adult learners. So I think that this tool could help us, offering them books or texts that are okay for their level. So I think that this tool is really interesting for us instructors.
Thank you. Now I have a question for Elvis. How can the app improve communication inside and outside schools, targeting diverse adult audiences such as school staffs and services, parents and guardians, policymakers, and economic and administrative stakeholders in the surrounding community?
Well, as you know, knowledge is power. Someone said that a long time ago. And it still keeps valid. If we don't give our people the knowledge they need, they will never be able to endure. iRead4Skills may play a very important role on that road. You mentioned administrative service and so on. The utilitarian text is very complex. I confess that I didn't have that knowledge, but as I started to use it, to use iRead4Skills with some utilitarian texts, I found out that after all they are very complex, absolutely terrible. I tried to pass through iRead4Skills a contract, something that we read every day, and the system almost collapsed. It painted everything in red because we had sentences sometimes with 20 words. And from the point of view of the syntax, it was hell on text because we had the subject and then 5 or 6 or 7 complements, objects in English, direct objects, and then so on. So it is really difficult for someone to read it. In the video, there was a young man who said, sometimes we only read 2 words and we sign it because we have to trust the people that gives us the papers. That's sad, in fact. PIAC results showed us quite clearly that we have to address more effort on this subject. Otherwise, we're going to, I don't know where, but it's not for the knowledge for sure. Another person on the video said, sometimes I like to read in Portuguese, o português antigo. I would translate to the classical Portuguese. And that lighted something in my head. What does that mean? The old Portuguese. Do we now have something that is not the old Portuguese? Do we have a new language? Is the social networks changing the language and the discourse? I'm missing the word now. Well, perhaps it is. We are not writing as, when I say we, is the people, is not writing as we should write and we used to write before, because we're trying to make it simpler, faster, but not complete indeed. Maybe iRead4Skills will help us reducing this gap. But we have to be very careful, otherwise we are going to simplify the texts and the discourse so much that we are going to lose something. That is our main compromising. It is simplified, but don't lose it. So it is our challenge. Thank you.
Is the turn for Elizabeth. ¿Cómo puede ayudar la aplicación a transformar la comunicación institucional de las entidades públicas y privadas desde la administración central hasta la regional para que estos adultos puedan leer, comprender y tomar decisiones de forma autónoma y competente, aprovechando lo que ya hacen con la lectura fácil? How can the application help to transform institutional communication within public and private entities from central to regional administration so that these adults can read, understand and make autonomous and competent decisions building on their existing experience of easy reading?
Primero quería comentar lo que ha comentado Elvis, de no perder la esencia del texto original. Nosotros adaptamos sentencias judiciales para personas con necesidades especiales y siempre luego estos textos adaptados pasan una revisión jurídica para mantener esta garantía. Y nosotros somos del parecer que cualquier texto puede ser explicado de forma más más llana, más sencilla y igual que adaptamos sentencias judiciales, hemos adaptado la Odisea, hemos adaptado el Quijote, siempre manteniendo esa esencia del original cuando es un texto jurídico o texto narrativo, esta fluidez, esa esencia del autor. Por tanto, cuando hablamos de textos adaptados hay que evitar caer en las frases telegráficas, esta infantilización que a veces también se cae en pensar que el texto pues, hay que infantilizarlo para que sea más comprensible. No. Lectura fácil, simplificación, lenguaje claro, que también es otro concepto de la simplificación del lenguaje, es utilizar palabras adultas, palabras con sentido propio, pero, como comentábamos, unas estructuras más sencillas, unas frases que no tengan 20 o 30 palabras y con unas ideas claras y pensar siempre, tener siempre presente el destinatario, a quién nos dirigimos, qué información tiene o qué información necesita que le transmitamos. Porque a veces, muchas veces, cuando redactamos, queremos explicarlo todo, ¿no? Todos nuestros conocimientos, ponerlos en ese documento, en esa presentación, y hay que tener siempre muy presente a quién nos dirigimos y qué información necesita y qué es lo que necesitamos transmitirle. Y en este caso, lectura fácil, lenguaje claro, tiene mucho que ver con la oralidad también. Cuando hablamos nos hacemos entender, cuando escribimos muchas veces elevamos el nivel, elevamos la jerga, la terminología para quizá demostrar algo, no sabemos, ¿no? Pero normalmente el texto escrito siempre es mucho más complejo que la oralidad. Y en cuanto a la aplicación iRead4Skills, nosotros creemos que es un apoyo fundamental porque estamos trabajando las adaptaciones de forma manual y tener un apoyo en la tecnología es siempre un paso adelante porque estamos haciendo, el otro día comentábamos, es un trabajo artesanal el que estamos haciendo hasta ahora y poder tener este apoyo de una aplicación contrastada pues que pueda analizar previamente el nivel de complejidad y luego aportar soluciones, aportar propuestas de mejora para las administraciones. Yo creo que será un paso muy importante porque también estamos hablando en cuanto a textos administrativos, trámites, son unas estructuras más previsibles, un lenguaje más estandarizado y estas aplicaciones pueden ofrecer un apoyo muy importante. Por tanto, nosotras estaremos encantadas de poder probar y trabajar con iRead4Skills.
We're going to finish with Javier. ¿De qué manera puede la aplicación ayudar al mercado editorial a crear nuevos lectores adultos o a recuperar a lectores adultos inactivos, tanto en términos de oferta como de demanda? How can the application help the publishing market to create new adult readers or to attract inactive adult readers in terms of both offer and demand?
Pues yo creo que la principal ayuda que puede ofrecer al mercado editorial es detectando y clasificando las necesidades de los lectores. Al establecer los niveles de complejidad de los textos, bueno, pues eso nos permite saber qué necesitan los lectores para poder disfrutar leyendo. Y creo que otra cosa muy importante es que exista comunicación entre quien desarrolla la investigación, ¿no? Y clasifica los textos y maneja la aplicación de iRead4Skills y el mundo editorial, ¿no? Y las editoriales que vamos a intentar dar una respuesta y ofrecer un producto accesible a todos los lectores con dificultades de comprensión. Creo que está muy relacionado también con lo que decía Isabel de tener respeto hacia los lectores, no ofrecerles libros para niños, libros infantiles, ni infantilizar los textos, como decía también Elizabeth, sino precisamente si podemos detectar las necesidades y clasificarlas bien, podemos ofrecer mejor una respuesta a esas necesidades. Y luego también creo que puede ser muy útil tanto en bibliotecas como en librerías, porque puede permitir ofrecer itinerarios personalizados de lectura y prescribir de una manera más acertada y no depender de que un librero o un bibliotecario conozca un libro concreto que se ha publicado en algún sitio, sino que teniendo todos los textos bien organizados, clasificados e indexados, pues pueda decir todo esto, puedes elegir entre todas estas lecturas para disfrutar leyendo, ¿no? Creo que realmente la aplicación puede conseguir un gran impacto social y un sistema de lectura que no deje a nadie fuera si conseguimos que se extienda y que se utilice correctamente en todos los ámbitos donde están los libros presentes.
We're almost out of time, so I just want to thank you for coming here and for participating in this roundtable and for the valuable insights you shared. Thank you.
Hello, I welcome you all for your presence here. I will try to. Sorry. So I'll try to give a small explanation on the interfaces and tools that we have developed. We have followed the excellent work of our partners in the consortium, all the universities and all the work that was developed to create the APIs with all the services that we can access in order to present the tools to the final users. So I'll start with one of the tools, the analyzer and writing assistant. You have already seen some screens in the previous presentations. We tried to keep the general feel of the application easy. So we are considering low literate persons, so we should find better ways to make everything accessible. On this tool, a user can submit some text to be analyzed and understand which parts of the text are more complex and what can give more problems in terms of reading for the user. In this case, we have submitted some tests. We have the results in terms of the classifier, the text classifier. We have a stamp we have created in terms of several aspects of complexity. And we can see several features that we can submit the text and see features that can give us a more detailed idea of which words are causing more complexity on the text. This is the writing assistant, so we have a tool of a set of features that we can validate and see in several aspects where the problems are. Sometimes the text is not the aspects of the text are not clearly stated. So this tool allows us to, and especially for teachers and for common users, to understand where all the problems are. We have some suggestions on how to solve that kind of complexity and try to find ways to improve the overall readability of the whole text. And this is the main platform that we have developed, where we can see several aspects that can be seen, and to better understand the complexity of some tests, we have also developed an app that can be used by a person, for instance, in a library or in a place where he needs to understand the complexity of some text. He can take a photo of that text. That image is submitted to the servers. The text is extracted, and we can submit them to the APIs to understand the complexity of those of the text submitted. So, for instance, it can help a person on a bookstore to identify the better book that he needs to pursue in order to follow his level of understanding of the Portuguese, Spanish, or French language. For someone that is editing a text or working on a Word document, we have developed a Microsoft Word add-in that the user can install on a normal Word installation, and through that tool he can submit to the system parts of the text that he is writing and understand in terms of complexity, in terms of the difficulty that the users that will be reading that text, what problems they can find, and work to solve those problems, to follow the suggestions that are made by the system in order to remove the complexity if the purpose is to end with an easier text for the final user, and find better ways, or at least follow the suggestions that the system provides to lower the complexity of the whole text. This tool also has incorporated the writing assistant, so all the features that are available on the main platform will be available on this add-in. And so the person that is writing the test will be able to also understand here, while writing the document, where are the problems, where are the main issues. Since we developed the system to identify the complexity of the texts, we decided to create a book database to store all the analyses that we have made on the books. Not only books, but also publications. And we created a title database that stores the results of the analysis of several books. So a final user can search for a certain book. If it's on the database, he will be able to understand the difficulty, the reading difficulty of the book, and understand what kind of books are more suitable for his needs. This is also a system that can help publishers augment the sales of certain books, because I imagine that a person with lower ability to read, if he has a system to understand which books are more suitable for his level of understanding, he will be more able to choose a book to buy. We will have a hands-on session now for anyone that want to evaluate the tools. You can scan this QR code and see this is a page where we have all information about the tools, and later at the end of this session we'll provide links to the platform itself, to the app, and to every tools and interface that we have developed. So if you want to test it, I invite you all in the rest of the day and in the future to understand how this system works and how you can use it in your personal use. I have some remarks. I would like to invite you all to experiment in the atrium, in the demonstration tables. split it in 3 languages, Spanish, French, and Portuguese, and respond to evaluation questionnaire. There's a QR code. I believe it's in the atrium also. Okay. Some members of the project will be available to help anyone that wants to test the application. Okay, and we will join here by 17 in order to continue our conference here. Sorry for my stumbled English, but I'm not a very public person in speaking in this. Okay, thank you.
So welcome back, everybody. We will continue with the next sessions of our conference with Mrs. Valentina Stoeva, who is the chair of iRead, the European Reading Promotion and Literacy Network, and Mrs. Stoeva is responsible of the presentation named the strategic role of reading, a prerequisite for future skills empowering children by supporting adults to read more. But before, I remind you, don't forget to use the QR code you can see here, and then you will have the opportunity to answer, of course, to all the questions of the dedicated questionnaire. So, as I just mentioned, we received today the responsible person of iRead. iRead, what's that? iRead is a network of 39 organizations from 28 European countries who believe that reading is the key for full participation in today's media-led society. Each organization strives for societal impact in their own country with programs and projects that fight illiteracy and promote reading. As a network, they meet regularly to exchange knowledge, experiences, and concepts, and to jointly raise awareness of the fact that a strong structural framework for reading promotion on a national and European level is absolutely vital. Mrs. Valentina Stoeva is graduated from the National High School for Ancient Language and Cultures, named Saint Constantine Cyril the Philosopher. It's a very beautiful name in Bulgaria. She holds a bachelor's degree in political science from Sofia University, St. Clement Oritsky. Clement, which is just a translation of my own name in Bulgarian, I think. Yes. And she has a master's degree in diplomacy and international relations from the New Bulgarian University. Since 2008, she has been engaged in promoting reading among children. She's the founder of the Reading Foundation Children's Books. She has been awarded the titles Library Ambassador and 9 of the Book by the Bulgarian Book Association. She is currently a PhD student in theory of reading at the Faculty of Journalism and Mass Communication at Sofia University in Bulgaria. And since July 2025, she has been the chair of iRead. Mrs. Stoeva, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, and thank you for having me here as a speaker at the final conference of the iRead4Skills project. As you already found out, I am a reading promoter in my country, Bulgaria. This was the last country on the scale of Simon's presentation. I am also honored to represent iRead. Let's see if this is going to work. Yes. So as you can see, our network consists of 34 members from 29 countries, and we span geographical Europe, not only the European Union. Our members include both large and small NGOs, libraries, two major federations of the booksellers and the publishers, and several state entities, including the Ministry of Culture and Media of Croatia, the National Literacy Agency of Malta, and of course, Plano Nacional de Leitura here in Portugal, a valued member since 2016, if I remember correctly. All iRead members work to develop and sustain the infrastructure of reading in their respective countries, so that no person is left behind. And thank you for presenting the iRead4Skills project to all of us. I am genuinely excited to see, for the first time in my practice, I should admit it, a tool so carefully designed with reading promotion in mind. A tool that can become a game changer for many Europeans who struggle with everyday tasks because they cannot read properly. Well, I was invited to reflect on reading promotion, literacy policies, and the future of adult skills. I am sure I will not be able to elaborate on all topics in depth, but I hope you all will see my presentation as an open invitation to work on finding the best possible solutions to change the state of literacy together. And in the presence of so many researchers, I decided not to attempt academic speech. Instead, I opted for a reading promoter's perspective, informed by science, certainly, but at the same time, drawing from various fields to shape the broader picture. So let's just start this journey by outlining the ground. What do we know about the state of reading? 73 million people in Europe. This is the number of low-skilled readers in Europe. We also know that in 4 out of 10 families, parents do not read to their children. 1/4 of primary school students leave school without adequate reading competences, according to PIRLS, and about 22% of teenage students lack sufficient reading skills, according to PISA. To be honest, some of these data is from 2012, and it was published in an EU high-level group of experts on literacy report, the most recent comprehensive European-level report we have. What is also well established throughout scientific research and longitudinal studies is that reading is fundamental to developing the ability to think rationally, to achieve personal success, and to contribute positively to society. It is clear that all sustainable development goals defined by the United Nations depend, directly or indirectly, on people's reading skills. Is it possible to eradicate poverty, achieve economic growth, or provide quality education if citizens struggle with decoding and comprehending written texts? I doubt it. And we also know, not only from neuroscience, but also from economics, that we must start early if we want a better future. Supporting parents to read to their children during the first 1,000 days of life is one of the best investments we can make as societies. And it is well proven by longitudinal studies like that of Professor Mariah Evans in different countries and different political systems, as well as by the equation by Professor James Heckman, Nobel Prize winner, who confirmed that early educational interventions from the prenatal period bring the best return on investment. It is clear that reading is in the early years supports child development and has the power to mitigate inequalities caused by lower socioeconomic backgrounds of limited parental education. Reading is also a proven tool for developing neuronal networks in babies' brains, responsible for language. It also supports brain development in children living in poverty, where this process is otherwise at risk of disruption. Reading also changes the environment that enables people to unlock their potential. Research clearly shows that access to books and high-quality reading materials, together with support throughout life, strengthens the development of the mother tongue and ensures functional literacy. Developing people's ability to read in their own language safeguards human rights and the core values of the European Union: prosperity, equity, freedom, peace, and democracy within sustainable development. How can you otherwise be functionally literate in other languages if your thoughts are limited by the lack of words in your mother tongue? And how can you develop yourself and the environment positively if you are unable to predict the consequences of your actions? By the way, this is a slide from the Human Capital Index of the World Bank. And as you can see, this is the data for different countries, the European countries, where you can see how the environment is influencing people development. For my country, the index is 0.61, which means that a child born in 2020 in Bulgaria can unlock only 61% of his or her potential when he reaches the labor market because of the environment. For Portugal, you're lucky, the index is 0.77, which means that you're doing a good job, but at the same time, this is really scary because we can see how functional literacy is affecting everything around us, and of course our children. And last but not least, we live in times when 181 zettabytes of information are created, transmitted, and consumed globally in 2025. I don't even know how this number should be written. And when an average person aged 16 to 65 interacts with different media for nearly 18 hours daily, according to the data from 2023. This comes with the fact that the capacity of the human brain to process information hasn't changed much since the time when our ancestors were forced to run in the savannah to hunt for their food. In these times of informational inflation or infodemic, if we use the term used by the World Health Organization during the COVID-19 pandemic, deep and concentrated reading acts as an anti-manipulation filter. It is one of the strongest tools we have to prevent the spread of misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda. But what is the situation with reading? Everything I have said is widely acknowledged, at least in scientific papers and on paper from a political point of view. However, if we examine national and EU policies, we clearly see that reading remains the overlooked ingredient of success in all aspects of life. At EU level, the Mario Draghi report on competitiveness recognizes low levels of functional literacy and the lack of transversal and managerial skills. He focuses on competitiveness, decarbonization, and security, and the proposed solution includes investments in vocational training and lifelong learning. As a reading promoter, I know that the most effective intervention begins in childhood. And this is the opinion you will find in this report if you follow the link and read the statement I'm sharing with you. But at the same time, it is clear that we must also change adults' attitudes toward reading. Only then we can ensure that children have access to books, shared reading and support within the family, the important prerequisite for early childhood development through reading. Before delving into the change of attitudes, let us examine the price we pay economically, socially, and democratically for narrow interpretations of the definition of reading. If we look at the OECD Learning Compass 2030, the skills needed for individual and collective well-being can be organized into 4 groups. Foundational skills: reading and writing literacy, mathematical literacy, digital literacy, physical and mental health, and social and emotional skills. These enable the development of core competences: critical thinking, creative thinking, collaboration, and communication. And these lead us to the transformative competences described in detail in the compass: creating new value, reconciling tensions and dilemmas, and taking responsibility. Only then can a person develop self-regulation and initiative, the ability to manage one's own learning and development. And these skills are prerequisites for success in times of uncertainty, especially as work is rapidly transformed by artificial intelligence. I must admit that I forgot to add a slide on my presentation regarding global transformation according to the World Economic Forum 2025, saying that there will be 170 million new jobs by 2030. 92 million jobs will be displaced. The net growth will be plus 78 million jobs. 22 out of every 100 jobs will be created, displaced, or fundamentally transformed. 59 out of 100 workers will require reskilling by 2030. And 63% of employers identify skills gaps as the biggest barrier to business transformation. And if you will look at the skills of the future, defined again by the World Economic Forum 2025, you can see that what kind of skills will be necessary for us to be competitive. AI and big data, networks and cybersecurity, technological literacy, creative thinking, resilience, flexibility and agility, curiosity and lifelong learning, leadership, talent management, analytical thinking, and environmental stewardship. What becomes clear is that all 10 critical skills depend on reading, not merely as decoding and comprehension, but as a cognitive tool for navigating these complex realities and hidden challenges. So, problems and solutions. According to the report, Reading the Hidden Infrastructure of EU Competitiveness, reading promoters argue that we must ensure a sustainable reading infrastructure, enabling access to books, reading materials, and support from birth onwards. EU Read calls for the development of a European reading plan, supported by all governments, based on the understanding that reading strengthens competitiveness, protects democracy, and preserves core EU values. Economically speaking, early investment yields the highest return. However, if we fail to support adults in understanding that reading is for everyone, we will not break the intergenerational cycle of functional illiteracy. How can we change adults' attitudes towards reading then? Nowadays, for many adults, reading is quite often confined to language and literature lessons in schools. Among many adults, there is a persistent misunderstanding that reading means reading novels on paper in one's spare time. Misunderstanding that reading means wanting to become a writer, or that reading is not for everyone. For some, as my colleagues from Stiftung Lesen, the German Reading Foundation, shared among a survey they conducted, for some reading is perceived as a luxury. For others, as in Bulgaria, where I come from, reading is seen as outdated, an activity for older people who cannot access better forms of entertainment. And this is not surprising, given the plethora of definitions of reading circulating around us. To summarize the problems we face around reading, we can notice limited personal understanding of reading as a cognitive process. People lack the awareness that reading is not genetically predetermined, and they see it only as a cultural or educational activity, not as complex cognitive process. I really like what Marianne Wolf, the neuroscientist, says. And she says, we were never born reading because we don't have it in our genes. It is an intervention, an invention that actually led us to be here where we are standing and speaking about reading and discussing that kind of amazing tool you created. But it is not genetically predisposed, and we should not forget it when we are able to read for ourselves. The limited thesaurus is restricting comprehension. We should not forget it. And of course, the insufficient background knowledge greatly affects comprehension, making it difficult to overcome even small percentages of unknown words in texts. And I'll show you an algorithm of reading created by Professor Milena Tsvetkova, and I enhanced it with the algorithm of reading of Marianne Wolf, so you can see the milliseconds when we are, and the process we are extracting information and we are actually reading, and how fast it is happening in the brain. The barriers, particularly visible in phases 2 and 3, understanding and comprehension, they reduce motivation to practice reading, to extract information effectively, to evaluate it critically, and to make informed decisions. The algorithm itself shows how we read, and I am usually showing it to teachers to explain why their pupils can't reach level 2 in PISA in Bulgaria, because we have 53% of 15-year-olds who cannot reach level 2 in Bulgaria. And this is mainly because they lack knowledge of the world and of the words, which is distorting understanding and comprehension, and is also preventing the brain from enhancing the situation model due to the more than 2% of unknown words that cause problems to unskilled readers of all ages. And this is confirmed by cognitive neuroscience, cognitive psychology. If there are only 2% of unknown words, the brain stops following the big picture because it's too much an effort. And our brain's role is to actually preserve energy, not to be curious. The barriers before the unskilled readers lead to lower motivation to practice deep reading, which highly affects self-efficacy and one's identity as a reader. This in turn reduces practice, limits knowledge acquisition, and weakens engagement, creating a negative cycle. The question is it possible to overcome such challenges? Of course, otherwise reading promoters would quit the Sisyphean work we are all doing every day. Again, to the report. If I put it in the spotlight, you will learn about the reading promoters' aspirations to influence EU politicians and institutions to include reading as part of the European Child Guarantee, which will ensure that governments will take shared reading in the families and the book gifting programs as an essential part of our efforts to raise literate and rational citizens. You will also find out our pledge to support school libraries. I know that in Portugal, these chains of the reading infrastructure are valued, but in some countries like Greece, Italy, the Netherlands, or Bulgaria, the acceptance of the role of school libraries and skilled librarians by the state needs a lot more work. And for the third solution, very important solution, you have already taken some steps with the iRead4Skills tool. And I hope that it will be available in all official EU languages, because this can change the situation with reading significantly, I think. What is left is to work together to align the understanding of adults with the definition of reading. Because I told you, some people think it's only for the pastime, when you go to the beach, when you can read from paper, a novel, or if you have to learn for your lessons in school. If adults know that reading is not genetically predisposed and everyone needs support, this will lower the tension that they are failing. If adults know that they read all the time in terms of decoding, this is also a relief. Of course, it is important to educate adults that what is the best investment in our personal development is called deep reading. And that you can read deeply even for 15 minutes. 15 minutes a day that can bring you stress relief together with new knowledge, better understanding of the world, and better equipment for the jobs of the future, no matter what these will be. Changing the definition of reading in the mind of adults is the first step towards turning them into skilled readers. Skilled readers who would be willing to read to their children, who would be able to think critically and rationally, make transfer of knowledge to solve problems creatively. Skilled readers who would be tolerant enough to preserve other people's rights, the vibrant democracies of Europe, as well as our cultural diversity. Thank you so much for having me. I really hope iRead4Skills tool will be available, and I hope together we will create the future generation of readers, because we all deserve it. We all deserve to live in better conditions, in better environment, in better world. Thank you so much.
I do not see my presentation here. Nope. O ecrã está escuro. Se for o caso, eu posso tentar perceber por ali. It's okay. Don't worry. Okay, good afternoon to you all again, and thank you so much, Valentina Stoeva, for the interesting talk and for the perspectives on how promoting adult literacy and reading skills and habits can positively impact children and the whole development of society. It was truly exciting, and one more reason for us to gather here today in this effort to discuss literacy and reading skills development in adult population. Also, I want to thank you all, the participants that were with us today, here in the auditorium and online. I've heard we have more than 300 people, so about 150 in the room and more, around 200 online. So thank you very much for your interest. And thank you for sharing your thoughts and insights on literacy, reading skills, and on the way the iRead4Skills project can contribute to filling in the gaps. I hope you had the opportunity to try the iRead4Skills tools during the hands-out session and to discuss with the project team your opinions and comments. We are very proud of our prototypes and associated project results, such as the title database, for instance. But we are also well aware that the users and experts in the field are a key element to keeping technology relevant and truly useful, so your participation is really valuable to us. The iRead4Skills is an European-funded research and innovation project that counted with experts and institutional knowledge from different partners and stakeholders. You have heard from many people from these institutions today, but I will name them. Nova University Lisbon, the Ministry of Education of Portugal through Plano Nacional de Leitura, INESC-ID Lisbon, the Catholic University of Louvain, the Universidade Autónoma de Barcelona, the University of Santiago de Compostela, Mindshaker, and the Luxembourg Institute of Socioeconomic Research. And this is the moment, after 3 wonderful and hard-working years, to acknowledge and thank all the involved, starting by the remarkable team of experts. We had the fortune to integrate on our advisory board Luís Rodes, Cecília Marquis, Ana Messeguet, and Zoltan Varconi, supporting us here still today. Thank you, Zoltan, who truly engaged in the project with valuable knowledge and advice. And of course, our ethics board, also João Queiroz, Ulisses Cortés, and Dagmar Mona Diaz, who showed us different ways to look at technology and society and led us to work better. And the collaborators of the project, the generous and wise people working in adult education who gave us their time, their knowledge and perspective in a truly cooperative way, and whose inspiring testimonies from them and their students here today. I'm switching to Portuguese. Muito obrigada pela participação, por terem feito o vídeo e por estarem cá hoje. We heard in the session earlier today. The national and international institutions and associations that took interest and supported the project, disseminating it and foreseeing new uses and applications of our results in their fields of activity, and in the institutional representatives that join us today, both here in presence and online. Our sister projects, who so kindly and openly collaborated with us in joint initiatives and with shared knowledge, and of course, in the name of the project, I would like to thank the European Union and the Horizon program that funded this venture, whose positive spirit and support was truly impersonated by our project officer, Sabrina Yahe, here in the middle of the picture, who was always present, always responsive, and always helpful. Thank you for everything, Sabrina. I think you are watching online. It was a pleasure working with you. But also by Simone Rossini, who worked in this specific topic, conditions for the successful development of skills matched to needs, and who came here today to our conference to share his knowledge with us and his insights. It was a great honor to have you here. Thank you. To Professor Manuela Aparicio, Vice Rector for Pedagogical Innovation at Nova University Lisbon, I extend our appreciation for the support and encouragement. And as representative of Nova University, we thank you for hosting this event. The project owes all greatly, and the results and outcome we achieved are also the product of the involvement and engagement of all. Still, in my role as a project coordinator, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge and credit the people that initially brought this idea to light, although not all of them are in the current picture. Elsa Conde from Plano Nacional de Leitura, Jorge Batista from INESC-ID, Susana Correia from my own Nova FCSH, Isabel Marques from Plano Nacional de Leitura, Nuno Mamed from INESC-ID, and soon after, Thomas François, Luís Correia and João Almeida, Javier Esclada Blanco, Marcos Garcia, Franz Klemen, and Regina Duarte, our project team leaders who conceived of how we could get here and ever so wisely and professionally led their teams during the entire project. To all team members, the ones here today and the ones that contributed long ago. I would like to thank the dedication, the professionalism, the scientific curiosity, and in a more personal note, I would also want to take this opportunity to praise your wonderful and cooperative spirit, your availability to listen, learn, and put forth knowledge from different perspectives and fields of expertise. It was a true pleasure working with you, and it was a truly rewarding experience. And of course, I also want to thank the wonderful and dedicated team that organized and prepared our final conference, led by Ana Leite and Isabel Marques, including the enthusiastic volunteers and the skilled NOW team in charge of making sure we keep on track and that we reach our online audience under the best conditions. We have in fact achieved relevant results in the project. Not working. Okay. We have in fact achieved relevant results in the iRead4Skills project. Functional prototypes based on specifically curated and annotated data that provide specific information extracted in a transparent way and designed to respond to real needs. New language resources, published research and open access project deliverables and results, a growing and wide interest from different sectors of society besides adult education and basic skills stakeholders such as health or public administration sectors, showing us that we have the capacity to reach our desired targets. However, and while we are here today celebrating this final milestone, we are also in the beginning of a new path that hopefully will lead us to a large-scale and equipable access to the tools in a scenario where all end users can use without noticeable limitations the different interfaces of our system, or in scenarios where other languages are included, as Valentina mentioned, for instance. A sustainable way of getting there with funding for robust and dedicated servers and sustained maintenance, but also with opportunities and conditions to further develop the systems and the tools, with the final goal of a generalized and sound support for learners, educators, content producers, librarians, publishers, all those interested and invested in the development of literacy and in the advancement of basic and transversal competences across the adult population. For all that reasons, I thank you, your participation, both here again and online, and hope that the conference of today was a further step in this journey towards the development of reading skills, a new journey through knowledge. We invite you all to give us some feedback on the conference and on the tools through the links and codes shared. And we say goodbye to all those participating online. It was a pleasure to have you with us. Please keep in touch and post it for future developments through the project website and contacts. And finally, to end this conference, we invite all here in the auditorium to join us in the atrium for a farewell toast. Thank you so much, and see you around. Thank you.
Na biblioteca começa a aventura literária. Encontrar o livro ideal nem sempre é fácil. Mas o classificador e a aplicação iRead4Skills tornam essa escolha mais simples. O iRead4Skills indica que livro selecionar, ajudando a desenvolver as suas competências de leitura de forma eficaz e envolvente. Um livro desperta a sua curiosidade, mas hesita em comprá-lo por receio de não o conseguir compreender. Ao identificar o selo iRead4Skills, saberá qual o seu nível de complexidade e terá a garantia de que o conseguirá entender. Faça escolhas de compra mais informadas. Responsáveis de recursos humanos e gestores de formação procuram métodos eficazes para garantir uma comunicação clara e assegurar a compreensão por parte dos colaboradores. O iRead4Skills oferece uma solução inovadora, indica que partes dos textos são mais complexas e como as simplificar, de modo a adequá-las às competências de leitura dos seus colaboradores. Com o iRead4Skills, apoia o crescimento profissional das suas equipas, melhorando a comunicação e o acesso à informação. Formadores de adultos procuram recursos que não só motivem os seus formandos, como também os ajudem a desenvolver as suas competências de leitura. A plataforma iRead4Skills disponibiliza uma base de dados abrangente de livros certificados pelo iRead4Skills, concebidos especificamente para adultos. Com o iRead4Skills, os docentes asseguram que os seus alunos têm acesso a materiais relevantes, que contribuem para o desenvolvimento contínuo das suas competências. O iRead4Skills é uma ferramenta relevante para promover um ambiente de aprendizagem dinâmico e eficaz. Com o iRead4Skills, o mundo da leitura abre-se. Descubra livros adequados aos seus interesses e objetivos de aprendizagem. Tome decisões informadas e desfrute plenamente da leitura. Identifique materiais que contribuem para o seu desenvolvimento pessoal e profissional e melhore as suas competências de compreensão leitora de forma simples. O iRead4Skills proporciona acesso a experiências de leitura enriquecedoras e gratificantes. iRead4Skills, uma nova viagem pelo conhecimento.
En la biblioteca comienza la aventura literaria. Encontrar el libro perfecto no siempre es fácil, pero el clasificador y la aplicación facilitan la elección. iRead4Skills te indica qué libro seleccionar para ayudarte a desarrollar tus habilidades de lectura de forma divertida y eficaz. Un libro despierta tu curiosidad, pero dudas en comprarlo porque temes no poder comprenderlo. Al identificar el sello iRead4Skills, conocerás su nivel de complejidad y tendrás la seguridad de que lo entenderás. Toma decisiones de compra más informadas. Los responsables de recursos humanos y los gestores de formación buscan métodos eficaces para garantizar una comunicación clara y asegurar la comprensión de los empleados. iRead4Skills ofrece una solución innovadora. Indica qué partes de los textos son complejas y cómo simplificarlas para adaptarlas a las habilidades lectoras de tus empleados. Con iRead4Skills, ayuda a tus empleados a crecer profesionalmente, mejorando la comunicación y el acceso a la información. Los educadores de adultos buscan recursos que no solo motiven a sus estudiantes, sino que también les ayuden a desarrollar sus habilidades de lectura. La plataforma iRead4Skills ofrece una base de datos completa de libros certificados por iRead4Skills, diseñados específicamente para adultos. Con iRead4Skills, los docentes garantizan que sus estudiantes tengan acceso a materiales relevantes, que contribuyen al desarrollo continuo de sus competencias. iRead4Skills es una herramienta clave para promover un entorno de aprendizaje dinámico y eficaz. Con iRead4Skills, el mundo de la lectura se abre ante ti. Descubre libros que se ajustan a tus intereses y a tus objetivos de aprendizaje. Toma decisiones informadas y disfruta de la lectura al máximo. Identifica materiales que contribuyen a tu desarrollo personal y profesional y mejora tus habilidades de comprensión lectora de forma sencilla. iRead4Skills proporciona acceso a experiencias de lectura enriquecedoras y gratificantes. iRead4Skills, un nuevo viaje a través del conocimiento.
À la bibliothèque, l'aventure littéraire commence. Trouver le livre idéal n'est pas toujours facile. Mais le sélecteur et l'application iRead4Skills facilitent ce choix. iRead4Skills vous indique quel livre sélectionner pour développer vos compétences en lecture de manière ludique et efficace. Un livre éveille votre curiosité, mais vous hésitez à l'acheter par crainte de ne pas le comprendre. En identifiant le label iRead4Skills, vous connaîtrez son niveau de complexité et serez assuré de pouvoir le comprendre. Faites des choix d'achat plus éclairés. Les responsables des ressources humaines et de la formation recherchent des méthodes efficaces pour garantir une communication claire et assurer la compréhension des collaborateurs. iRead4Skills propose une solution innovante. Elle indique quelles parties des textes sont complexes et comment les simplifier afin de les adapter aux compétences de lecture de vos employés. Avec iRead4Skills, accompagnez le développement professionnel de vos équipes en améliorant la communication et l'accès à l'information. Les formateurs pour adultes recherchent des ressources qui motivent leurs apprenants tout en les aidant à développer leurs compétences en lecture. La plateforme iRead4Skills propose une base de données complète de livres certifiés iRead4Skills spécialement conçus pour les adultes. Avec iRead4Skills, les enseignants s'assurent que leurs apprenants ont accès à des contenus pertinents qui contribuent au développement continu de leurs compétences. iRead4Skills est un outil pertinent pour promouvoir un environnement d'apprentissage dynamique et efficace. Avec iRead4Skills, le monde de la lecture s'ouvre à vous. Découvrez des livres adaptés à vos centres d'intérêt et à vos objectifs d'apprentissage. Prenez des décisions éclairées et profitez pleinement de la lecture. Identifiez des contenus qui contribuent à votre développement personnel et professionnel et améliorez facilement vos compétences en compréhension écrite. iRead4Skills offre un accès à des expériences de lecture enrichissantes et valorisantes. iRead4Skills, un nouveau voyage à travers le savoir.